As fires rage through the Palisades, Altadena and Pasadena among the horrific casualties. Alongside the tragic human loss were the pets. The thousands of beloved dogs and cats terrorized too by the inferno that tore through their homes and left too many to count lost and separated from their families. Shelters in LA, already overcrowded, anticipated the crisis and turned to Wings of Rescue and its president, Ric Browde, to airlift those already in shelters to non-kill facilities in other states, all to make room for what they knew would be a tidal wave of pets displaced by the fires racing against the clock. Browde immediately mobilized his team of animal-loving pilots to come to the rescue, loading as many dogs and cats onto planes at local airports possible to airlift them to safety. Browde's team has rescued thousands of pets from all over the world. His mission clear, a chance to make the world a better place, he says, 100 to 200 pets at a time. The inspiring Ric Browde, president of Wings of Rescue. He is today's LA story. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very moving edition of LA Stories. I'm here with the amazing Ric Browde, who gave up a very successful music career to now dedicate his life to airlifting at-risk pets to safety when disaster strikes, as it struck here in Los Angeles, ravaged by wildfires. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
When you first heard the fires were raging, leveling communities, you knew, obviously, lives and property lost, but also the animals. They are the most vulnerable victims as well. Tell me what you had to jump in to do.
Well, you have to realize the shelters have to make space, because these shelters in Los Angeles were already overcrowded to begin with, and they were going to have to kill all these pets to make room for the tidal wave of incoming pets. So we had to get in and save those, because we can't touch the pets that are coming in that are being displaced directly by the fire, because we have to give them every chance, and we hope that everyone will be reclaimed by their families. But some families, unfortunately, are going to find that their lives have been destroyed. They've lost everything, and they may not be able to afford to keep pets. And those pets are going to need rescuing in a month.
There's so much focus, and understandably, on the human loss and tragedy of property, lives lost, whole neighborhoods, swaths just wiped out. Are often animals the last thing thought of?
Nearly 99% of the time they're the last things thought of. The pets are the last thing they think about, and they don't know which way to run. So sometimes they're running right into the flames. I can't even imagine the trauma that these pups have gone through. And there are a million stories that we don't know about and we'll never know about, but each one's a tragedy.
What are the challenges, especially when, the clock is ticking, to get the dogs and cats created from the shelters on those planes, loading them? How do you do it?
The first thing is always finding crates for them, because they have to be crated. Second thing is they have to have health certificates to move across state lines. And we have to get them vetted. And we have to make sure that there's a clear title to these pets, that they belong to the shelters. We can't take somebody's pet that was just stray that came in 2 days ago.
30 days they have to wait if the pets are brought in from a disaster.
That's our rule, the 30-day rule. We cannot bear the thought of some 5-year-old kid going, I lost my house, my friends may have been killed, and now they're giving away my pet. That would give me nightmares, and I don't ever want to be that guy that ever deprived a child of his pet, or a family of the pet for that matter. So no, that's our rule.
And when you transport these animals from a shelter into a crate, into the air, I mean, how terrified are these animals, and how do you care for them in flight?
It's something I wondered about before I started doing this, but when we get to 10,000 feet, they all fall asleep. They're in the same compartment that I am. Pretty much everybody except for the beagles will fall asleep. The beagles will keep barking and howling at all time. So we always put the beagles in the back. But then they're quiet for the entire time. You could hear a pin drop until we start to land. And then it's like having 100 3-year-olds asking, are we there yet? As we come down. But no, they take it really well. And the pets that we take in these disasters are always the first ones adopted. out at every shelter. When you get an event like this, these pets become the Kardashians of pets, and everybody wants them. Everybody wants to open up their hearts and show that they care.
So there's a vanity component to the wildfire pets.
Yeah.
Displaced, that is just something
Isn't it
else.
crazy? And we're flying to Texas, which is a state that we would normally not fly to because they have an overpopulation of pets there. However, everybody in Texas is clamoring for these pets. And the shelters there got together going, if we bring these pets in, people are going to come to the shelter and adopt the other pets who are languishing there. Texas euthanizes the most pets of any state in the country. It's the biggest state geographically, and California's number 2. It's a bloodbath. When I started dog rescue, they were killing 100 dogs every day, every single day. And they'd dump them in barrels, and if you went in the back, you'd see them. They didn't want to let volunteers in the back, but I was always there. And that will crush you when you see that.
Why do you do it?
I had a fairly successful career in music, and we had a house in Beverly Hills, 2 Mercedes in the driveway. My wife and I woke up and we looked at each other and said, you know, we've never done anything to make the world better. And it was just like this moment of like, you're right. We didn't know that dogs were being killed in shelters. And then we found out about it and it was like, oh my God, you know, our happiest days have been with our dogs. Let's do something about it.
And that experience for you and your wife led you in a completely different direction, and ultimately with Wings of Rescue. And we're gonna get more into that when LA Stories comes right back. Welcome back to LA Stories, everyone. We are here with the president of Wings of Rescue, saving so many animals in the midst of disasters like the wildfires and airlifting them to safety. You do God's work, so thank you for all that you do. You started after a very successful music career, wanting to make the world a better place after a lot of success. Your wife said, go volunteer at a high kill shelter. You did. How traumatizing was it for you to see all those animals, 100 a day, you said, getting killed, euthanized, just because of the overcrowding crisis?
It was terrible. You'd see there's a blue truck that comes into the shelter every other day, and it takes the bodies that are in barrels and takes them over to a rendering plant.
These are young dogs, healthy dogs?
These are
dogs?
highly adoptable. They could be anything.
So how did that impact your sense of humanity, your fellow human beings, knowing that we have a culture that doesn't honor these animals?
It shatters it, I think is the best, if you have one word answer. I was just gobsmacked.
So you started using social media to adopt these dogs.
Meet Popsicle, just a real sweetheart. We were the first shelter to use social media, YouTube videos of dogs. And we used Facebook when it was just starting, basically, to get to snowball. And quickly, we became the most talked about shelter, and we went from killing 100 dogs every day to, they only killed 9 the last 4 weeks I was there. The Los Angeles County shelters are the worst run shelters in the country. Always marketing dogs as like, this dog dies at midnight if you don't get it, so come to it. Why not just say, instead of that, say, this dog will improve your life. He's so friendly. And they'd adopt them. It's just marketing. Everything in life is marketing.
So Wings of Rescue was already in operation. How did you come to learn about it and then become the president and double the number of rescues you were doing?
Well, the founder of Wings of Rescue came to Baldwin Park, and they were going to do in 2014 the biggest airlift that I thought I'd ever heard of. But I need $7,500 to get this. And so I said, we've got this Facebook page. It has 75,000 followers. And if I put this out, I think I can raise that money. We raised it in 15 minutes. Opportunity to save 105 pets, just donate, here's a PayPal address. And so we did this airlift. It was a huge success. It took over my life.
Well, lucky for them, lucky for the animals.
In our history, we've responded to nearly every disaster. We've flown 76,000 pets since our inception in 2012. In 2017, we had Harvey, Irma, and then Maria. We flew probably 90 flights during those months. going down to Puerto Rico, carrying emergency supplies to the disaster, both of veterinary and humanitarian supplies. We landed in all 50 states. I think we've been in 18 countries, and primarily Caribbean countries, but there's not a disaster of any magnitude that we haven't been there.
Are you talking mostly dogs and cats?
Dogs and cats primarily, but we've had rabbits, hedgehogs, guinea pigs. We even had a few snakes. We had a cockatoo. We had miniature horses. We've had quite a few species.
And the heartbreaking stories of both human and animal are just so devastating, but there's some really amazing, harrowing stories of heroism too. There's this one story coming out of Puerto Rico, Hurricane Maria. 30% of the population had to leave and go to Florida. It was that bad.
Right.
And were not allowed to bring their pets. So what did you do?
I decided that we should fly our plane down and go get these people's pets and bring them to them. We get there, everybody was there. Like they'd been there 2 hours before we landed. And so there was this one lady who came up to me and she pointed to her son who was severely crippled. And she told me he'd gone catatonic because his dog was his companion. His dog was his life. So she said, will you bring it over to him? So I grab the crate, and the dog sees the kid before the kid sees the dog, and the tail starts thumping. And I get up to this little boy, and I open the crate, and the dog jumps in his lap. Kid starts crying and talking. And he's grabbing his family, and his mother, he grabs her by the hair, and it was just such a heartwarming thing.
You know firsthand the impact animals have on humans.
Mm-hmm. It's profound. Animals enrich our lives, and they share the planet with us, and they make our lives better, and they teach us compassion. And we need compassion back in our society, because our society is really failing in so many ways right now. There's a lack of compassion. One day we were doing this flight, this one gentleman, he comes up to me and he goes, I just put 40 dogs on this plane. If I didn't put them on, I was gonna have to take them back to my shelter and euthanize every one of them. Today's my daughter's 14th birthday. I was gonna have to do that and then go home to her birthday party and act like I was having a good day. And he starts breaking down crying. I'm crying because I never thought that I would walk in his shoes, and I never knew that feeling of killing a dog and what it tore out of this gentleman. And he's the hero as far as I'm concerned. It's not me, I just flew the dog. It's him who has to deal with this stuff, because when a dog dies in a shelter, it's not the shelter's fault by and large, it's the community's fault, because each and every one of us had a chance to go get the dog, and where were you? You caused this problem. The dogs that are there were discarded by the public. So public is one who kills the pets, not the guy who has to do the dirty work at the end. So it taught me a very profound lesson.
In terms of emergency response, I saw so many homeowners desperate, crying, grown men.
I literally rescued them off the street. They deserve better than this.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
How do I get to my house?
Saying, please, my dog is there. My dog is there. I've got to get my dog.
Alive! Oh, honey! Oh!
They are desperate, and yet there is no hierarchy or priority for pets, because obviously people are focusing on saving lives.
Right.
What has to change?
There's so many things that people can do to prepare themselves for disaster. Why isn't your pet microchipped? Why doesn't your pet have a collar? Because we can reunify people, and if you keep your microchip up to date, there's so many things that we can do to prepare ourselves. You can put a little sticker on your front door saying, there are 3 dogs, 2 cats here. And then the firemen are going to see it and they'll do something about it. They really are trying to save lives.
I've seen so many beautiful shots of firefighters in the midst of the fight of their lives, seeing a stray animal and giving it some compassion as much as they can.
I've had firefighters who have called us saying, we just took 2 dogs back to the firehouse. Can you figure out what to do with them? The emergency workers are amazing, and the fatigue that they must have in terms of compassion fatigue will beat anything that I ever have.
All right, that's a really good place to take a break. But when we come back, I want to ask you about the dog crisis, not just in Los Angeles, but across the country.
Oh, please.
And how we got here when LA Stories comes right back. Welcome back to LA Stories, everyone. We're here with the amazing Ric Browde, who dedicates his life to saving as many animals as possible through airlifting them to safety during natural disasters like the LA fires we've just had. So the dog crisis, particularly, overcrowding our shelters, not just here in LA, but across the country. Why are we here? And all of a sudden, it's worse than ever. Why?
Well, the biggest factor is during the pandemic, there was a shortage of anesthesia drugs. So every year that you don't do spay neuter, you set yourself back 10 years. At the same time, we had corporatization of apartments. So many people had to move into apartments. Corporate private equity firms bought up all these apartment buildings, and then they put these restrictions. You can't have a pet over 25 pounds, or you can't have a pet, period. Dog gets turned in, dog gets turned in, dog gets turned in. So we were killing 10 million dogs in shelters, 10 million pets in shelters every year. There is no such thing as no kill. That's a fallacy to begin with.
Wait, because many people feel some sense of comfort turning in a dog to a shelter that says no kill. So that's deceiving?
No kill is a total snow job to mean that you have a 90% live release rate. Now you try and tell the 10% that they killed that they weren't killed, that's fraud. So anybody who says they're a no-kill shelter, they're lying. So-called no-kill shelters, they drive their pets to the municipal shelter so that they would kill them.
So those are the realities you've experienced firsthand.
Yeah, a lot of shelters these days, because of the expensive costs of veterinary care, are doing end-of-life decisions too. But they're dying, pets are dying there.
Well, let me ask you about that, because vet care, I know this myself with dogs and rescues, is so prohibitive. Why has that happened? I understand you call it the pet industrial complex, all these private equity firms that you've said are trying to do to pet care what they did to human health care. What do you mean by that?
Well, they go, ooh, this veterinary clinic does X amount of business per year. Let's give them 7 to X earnings and we'll buy it, subsidize it. Meanwhile, they have jacked up the costs of spay neuter. Used to be about $100, $150. Now, average cost in the United States, over $700. In California, over $900. We are very much moving towards pet ownership becoming a luxury item, and that is dangerous and sinful.
What can we do?
Start breaking up these monopolies and just saying, no, you can't be these mega corporations. You can't do this. But we've moved into such a corporatization world in so many fields that the veterinary field is going to be very hard to break up. And it's very scary to me.
So in the meantime, one of the big solutions you say is make sure to spay and neuter your dogs. You offer free spay neutering programs in the various cities you go to.
Right. We have a program called Operation Pit Stop, where we provide free spay neuters and vaccinations, the basic core vaccines to pets. The only way we are going to ever stop the tidal wave of pets coming in is through spay neuter. We have to work together, and we have to get shelters to change their frame of mind to say, look, spay neuter is the answer, and we've got to provide it. And the veterinary industry can just go itself, quite frankly, because sometimes they protest, you're taking our business. Well, then make your business better.
Mm-hmm. When you got into this, you said you're saving 100 or 200 pets on every flight, and your only regret is that you can't save them all.
When I shut the door on a plane, there's this moment of like, I look around and there are 100 dogs or cats on the flight, and look, oh, that's so great, we saved these lives. And then there's this moment of dread because I know I didn't get them all. And I got to go back, I got to do it again. And as long as pets are dying in the shelters, and as long as I'm not on a rascal scooter, I'm going to be doing this. And I think that we all have the capacity, every one of us, everyone looking at this, has the capacity to make the world better. if they just get off their rear ends and do it. We all have the capacity to make the world better. You can go to your shelter, you can bring blankets, newspapers, cans of food. You can just walk a dog, you could pet a cat, socialize them, you could foster, you could adopt. But stop writing thoughts and prayers and do something yourself. Make a difference in the world. Make it so that you were on this planet to do something good, because that's why we were put here in the first place.
Thank you so much for being here for the animals during this wildfire disaster in California, and for all the disasters that you airlift these animals to safety. Wings of rescue, you got wings of your own. There are angels among us. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for watching another edition of LA Stories. I'm Giselle Fernandez. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your communities, click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV for the latest information, balanced coverage, weather updates every 10 minutes, and more. We'll see you then.